Welcome to the Coach Speak podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin. Sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing the nation's best athletic training equipment since 1932. And R4 Football Systems. Accelerate everything by decoding the game.
Hey guys, welcome back to Coach Speak. Dustin Martin here with Jamie Bolton. We have a special guest tonight, Coach Lendyak, and he's actually from the same county. He's in York County, so it's not every day we get somebody on here who we can drive to their house in under 15, 20 minutes. So we're super excited about that. Before we get going, I want to shout out to our sponsors, Team Builder, Tsunami Bar Sports, and Pro Quick Draw.
Yeah, guys, today we're with Coach Zac Lendyak, the head football coach at Catawba Ridge High School in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Coach spent over a decade at Nation Ford, which is also in town, then took over one of the toughest jobs in coaching, launching a brand new program literally down the road from where he kind of built his name. Today isn't just X and O's, about a blueprint for building a team, a staff, a culture from scratch in the same community that he already knows. We're going to go deep on what it takes to start a program, establish identity, and get buy-in, kind of when everybody's watching. But Coach, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys reaching out. I'm excited. Heard nothing but great things about the two of you and the show that you're doing. So, I look forward to chat with you guys for a while.
Awesome, man. So what's your first reaction when you realized that you'd be starting a program kind of right down the road from Nation Ford?
Well, first off, you kind of hit that, you get so excited that you get the job, and then all of a sudden it hits you like, oh boy, now I'm actually going to have to do this, like it's some, and then you get it and you're like, all right, what do we do? And, part of why I wanted to really pursue Catawba Ridge was, I know the type of kids that the town of Fort Mill has, and, coaching those for years at Nation Ford. Then when we opened up, we literally, about half our population came from NAFO and the other half from Fort Mill. So it's very familiar. And at the time, my wife and I had just moved here to Fort Mill from North Carolina, and this is where we wanted to be. We wanted to raise our family in town and in the great school district. And it was like, man, what an opportunity to step out on my own as a head coach, but then at the same time get to open a program. And, it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. And, I still thank my first principal, D. Christopher, for that opportunity to do that. And then, here we are 7 years later. It feels like it's been forever, but it also feels like a blink of an eye at the same time.
Yeah. And Coach, it's funny. I forgot D. Christopher because he was at Fort Mill prior. And when he went to Catawba Ridge that first year, his son Cade stayed at Fort Mill and played. So I knew his son from the year I worked there because that was where my first teaching job. And man, it's funny because Fort Mill is such a great school district. I remember, first year teacher, you go through their onboarding process and it's like, man, this is luxury. And then I went and taught in my hometown in Georgetown, South Carolina. And it just wasn't quite up to that par. And like, I'm answering questions for people because they don't know what's going on. And Fort Mill done it at such a high level. But, Coach, like, what do you think was the hardest thing? It's one thing to take over a struggling program and flip it around, but it's also, I think, a different when you're completely starting from scratch. What do you think was the hardest thing when you got going?
So the biggest thing that we took from it was, whatever happens is on me. There's no, well, the previous coaching staff did it this way. It's going to take me a couple of years to reverse that. There's no, if that thing fails, it's on me. And they gave me a ton of trust to say, hey, we want you to get this thing up and running the right way. So not that there was pressure there, but you want to do it the right way. And there's no excuses. You can't say, well, I didn't have this or this should have been done that way. So, you don't want to get too overwhelmed when you start looking. Like, I can remember my staff and we unloaded the entire weight room. We literally put the benches together that are on the sidelines. You had to put every piece of equipment, all the ordering and all those kind of things. Kind of fun at the time. It's almost like, Christmas shopping. You get hey, you need this, we'll buy you that. But really it was the culture piece that if we don't start the traditions early, if we don't start the mindset from day one, then we have no one to blame but ourselves. So that part. And another unique thing was the school in the town of Fort Mill has grown so quickly. We're the third high school in town. So it wasn't like you were breaking apart and you had one rival, but we had to take a group of kids that for the last 3, 4, 5 years, hey, all you want to do is beat Fort Mill and all you want to do is beat Nation Ford. Now we had to put them on a team together and say, now we got to get together and then go beat those two teams again. So that part was really unique and interesting dynamic to deal with as well.
Yeah, and that dynamic in that town, I mean, the if you don't know Fort Mill, and I'm sure everybody in this area does, but, we have listeners all across the country, but that's one of the fastest growing, like,
Mhm.
towns, and this area is one of the fastest growing areas in the entire country. And
Yeah.
so at one point, and we had, before this new realignment, 3 5A schools in a town of less than 40,000 people. Is that
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So all these young families are moving in. Rock Hill's got a couple, 3 high schools, but they're not as big, and or I guess all 3 of them aren't as big,
Right.
and, but they have double the population. It's just a weird
It's
kind of a weird spot that you guys are in, the explosion of kids and all that dynamic too of, like, all the
Yeah.
new people.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. So you get a lot of population coming in. You get a lot of it is younger families. The neighborhood I live in, we're a mile from the school, and when I drive home from practice or from a off season here, just driving home, man, there's just tons of elementary age kids in the green spaces out throwing the football, and you can't help but get excited to think that those guys will be coming through one day. So,
Mhm.
and my own children included in that. So that part's really excited. But like you said, Coach Bolton, man, you don't have to drive too far around Fort Mill to see a new development going up and
It's crazy.
townhomes and apartments and people are moving here. It says a lot about the school district,
Mhm.
how great they are, a lot about the area. And then we want to do well by the community by putting a product on the field that represents them in the right way.
Yeah, and I know Dustin's gonna jump in. We got a chance to play you this year, but that's not the first time I've played against you. I was at York for 6 years, and
Yep.
Dustin was there for a little bit, so we got some really good games when you guys had, Tui was it Tui Pelotu and
Hello too,
dude,
man.
you we were
We
just
had a crew
talking
with
off
those
air,
guys.
like, I was like, "Man, that guy got the ball every play."
Yeah. Yeah.
You did a really good job of getting him the ball.
Yeah.
Like,
Man, we had a special quarterback in Cole Martin that year, and then their senior year, we were able to put all four of our starting wide receivers went over 1,000 yards receiving. It's just
Wow.
kind of insane. With I still remember Josh Shade, Alex Stennett, Jordan Helms, and Hank Tupelo, and we threw the ball a lot back then. It was fun crowd to coach.
That was I remember that game specifically.
Yeah.
It's crazy because Fort Mill is growing so much. I remember I did my student teaching at one of the elementary schools, and there was
Mhm.
someone outside that would look at all the license plates as they drove in to try
Yeah.
to make sure, because people, so many people want to come from Charlotte. But Coach, I
Yep.
mean, we played at 5 or 6 different stadiums this year, like away, and man, I'll be honest, like y'all were probably the second best atmosphere in stadium
Yep.
in my opinion.
oh,
And like
100% behind Burns.
that was Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah, Burns was the
Yeah,
only
but
other school,
but
but
I'll be honest,
Yeah,
like,
the
the
stadium down
crowd,
there,
like,
sure.
the wall, like, the noise off that
yes,
huge,
the
like,
pit,
30-foot
man.
wall. Yeah, it
It
was
Yeah,
awesome.
it is. And we call it the pit. The crowd gets up there. We got, Mr. White, who teaches social studies at the middle school. He just started from game one shooting off fireworks, and I've had a couple coaches like, man, how did you get your school district to shoot off fireworks? And I said, that's not us. That's Mr. White over there shooting off the fireworks. And we got the LED lights this year, and that doesn't help you win football games, but it does add to the atmosphere, especially when you're in the South and you see what Saturday night football looks like for some of these major SEC schools. And again, it goes back to community. You want the community to be excited about coming to games on Friday night. You want those little kids to sit in the stands and say, hey, I want to be a Copperhead one day. And, that's part of it. I think high school football is the most pure form of football and the most exciting. And I think, for the vast majority of those kids, when the Friday night lights go out, it's over. So to enjoy that and give them that atmosphere, we're proud of what we do there at Catawba Ridge.
Yeah, coach, I think, one of the most interesting pieces to this, there's other schools that will, other districts will break off a school. Like there's doing, one in Clover, they're making a new high school. That's gonna, divide a community. How do you carve out like your community, like quote unquote, when you guys are in such a small, dense area? How have you really tried to say like, are there feeder programs? Are there like middle schools that feed directly? Are there not? How do you say you're going to be a Catawba Ridge football player? How do you do that?
So we only have one of the middle schools that feeds directly into Catawba Ridge. It's right across the street at Forest Creek, and then we get a little bit a couple others. So that dynamic is different, where they're playing middle school together, and then they might separate and go to schools. But I was really excited 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we were able to bring a Pop Warner team that plays right out of Catawba Ridge. They're green and gold and call themselves the Copperheads, and I think any coach knows that youth football is important.
Hmm.
And here in Fort Mill, they didn't have football in the Parks and Recs. I think stopped playing probably 10 years ago. So it was important for me as the head coach to allow kids a chance to play and learn it the right way. And then we run one of our biggest events every year is we run a youth football camp the first week in June. And, we get anywhere from 180 to 220 kids that come out. And, a lot of times I don't want to call it babysitting. We're playing football, but it's my guys, my players are running that camp. We get a lot of
Hmm.
compliments on it, but it's them letting them go see it. And then, those kids then say, hey, I want to come watch fill in the blank player on Friday night. I want to go play for those guys and be around what they're doing. So we just try to build relationships. We'll go to the elementary schools during the season and put on our jerseys and open the car doors for the car riders. We've gone to schools and do reading programs and things of that nature. So just letting those little kids see that, hey, I tell my players all the time, they look at you like you're the Carolina Panthers.
Hmm.
You get a high five from you. That's and then that's a big responsibility. So carry that responsibility on the field, off the field, in the community to represent Catawba Ridge football the right way.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff, Coach. And what better way to like start traditions? I think that's the best thing about, you can do that taking over a new job, but especially building a new program. I know when
Hmm.
when Jamie took over Cannon, he did a lot of similar things. And a big thing I remember we used to always talk on the phone was he was like, man, I want to start traditions that is known, the football
Yep.
program is known. And I took over after Jamie. And what I noticed is Jamie started it. And as I transitioned, other sports wanted to contribute and do the same things. And I think that just speaks volumes of setting an example, setting a tradition that other people want to be a part of as well.
Yeah, I think the football team really can kind of dictate how a school year goes. And the school year starts in August, football season starts in August, and if you're football players, they're going to be recognized on campus. And if the team's playing well and the kids are behaving and doing things the way they're supposed to, I do think the culture of the football team can leak into the school and kind of give you that school pride. Showing up on a Friday and wearing the green, the gold, or the colors of your school to make you feel like, hey man, I'm proud of what these guys are out here doing and proud to sit in the stands and cheer them on. And with that, we started the saying "Be the why." And our second principal, Darren Wilson, came to me a couple years ago and said, "Hey, would you be okay if we kind of made that the school wide motto and logo?" And now you see it all over the place in the school. So I'm super proud of that. But kind of to your point, when other people kind of see that the culture is good, I think that becomes addicting and people want to get involved with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it means more than just, what happens, at the end of the season. It's like, what
Hmm.
does that experience bring to that kid, the family, the community, and
Hmm.
so forth? What did you take from Nation Forward specifically? We know Coach Allen. Me and
Oh yeah.
Dustin coached with Coach Allen this past year. Coach Allen was longtime head coach at Nation Forward.
Yep.
And man, I've coached against him. We all knew him, but this is my first year being around him, and what a great man and leader. What did you take from Nation Forward to kind of help you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I take from Nation Forward, and then specifically Coach Allen, is just to be authentic, and you can't do it how everybody else wants you to do it. You got to do it your way, and Coach Allen always did it his way, um, which I mean, the kids feed off of that. Like, hey, here's what we're about. We're not going to be someone else. We're not going to take someone else's slogan. We're not going to do what everyone else does, but we're going to do it the way that we do it. And he'd always say, we're going to play Nation Ford football. I take that. We're going to play Catawba Ridge football, and each year that kind of melts into who you have on your program. But just to be authentic with how you want to do it, and then attack each and every day. Like Coach Allen has more energy than most kids on a football team, and if as a coach, if you can't get excited to be out there and be around those guys, whether it's the weight room or practice or a game day, they're probably going to feed off of you, right? And so bring the energy every day that you step on the field.
Man, he has so much energy. We bought a house back in August, and he's into flipping houses and all that. We're sitting in the
Yeah. Oh yeah.
the coach's office one day, and I'm asking him all kind of questions. I said, yeah, I'm switching out some shower heads tonight. You know, he said, make sure you get some Teflon tape. I said, oh, I'm going when I leave here. He said, oh, wait, no, you're not. He ran outside, like sprinted, got some out of his truck. He said, here you go, coach. He said, you can have this one. Like, man, he's so knowledgeable.
He's the how can I help? What can I do to make your life better guy? Like, how can I help you today, coach? What a leader.
1,000%. And that's it. You know, serve everyone in your program, and you know, be the hardest worker around.
Can you give pregame speeches like Coach Allen? Are you
that?
He's elite, man. He is elite.
He is. It's special. I'll be honest. Like, that's an area where I feel like I need to improve. There's sometimes I'm like,
I'm the same way.
Let's go get him. You know.
Yeah.
But man, he's just like, he starts talking, and it's like, I'll get involved. It's like, oh, coach, we're about to kick off, man. We got to get going here, you know. But he's got a gift, and he relates to people, and he can motivate people, and motivation can happen in a bunch of different ways. But man, I could sit and listen to him give a pregame speech any day of the week.
Man, I busted out of the doors on one of them. I busted out like I was going to go play.
Yeah, here we go. Right?
I think it was the Fort Mill one is the one. It was either Fort Mill or Nation Forward was the one where
Nation Forward. I think I one at South Point.
Sure.
Those are some good ones, man.
Yeah,
some good ones.
And I think, like you said, it's a natural gift because like that's one of the areas I feel like, man, I sometimes I have a good one, and then it's like 6 weeks I'm like, man, like I don't know what to say. Boys, like
sometimes I feel like I give a good one, and heck, man, we don't do good. It's like I nailed it.
Flat, right? For me, I try not to, like, those first couple of years, like, I got to write something down and I got to know. It just kind of comes to you, and it seems like it always comes to Coach Allen. He always knows the right thing to say. But, you know, at the same time, too, I do tell my guys, man, if you need me in here to scream in your face and get you fired up to play football, then we probably didn't approach Monday through Thursday the right way either, you know.
Good point. So, you know, Coach, so you're at Nation Forward, Fort Mill School District, obviously says they're opening a new high school. You start interviewing, going for it, and then you get the job. What do you think anyone listening who may get that opportunity, what's the biggest misconception about starting a brand new program? Like maybe something that people think is true that's not, or vice versa. What do you think is a big misconception?
That's a great question. You know, lucky enough for me, it was my first job. So I kind of didn't know what I didn't know, if that makes sense. You know, I think if you start a school and you've been a head coach before, it might be a little bit, I don't want to say more difficult, but it might be different where you're like, man, we don't have this in place and this isn't there. But I think for me, the hardest part, it ended up being a true gift for me, was putting together a staff. So our situation, you know, you had teachers coming from Nation Forward and from Fort Mill that fit the school. So it was almost like I had some conversations with some people that you want to get in. Well, we don't have a teaching position for them. And that becomes difficult when you know, because you got to honor the contracts, and you guys know as well as I do, Fort Mill School District is #1 in the state, and we have some phenomenal teachers. So I was able to piece together, and I use that term not in a derogatory way, a coaching staff that was just elite, but with a lot of like community members, a lot of retired coaches. At that first year, I think I only had 2 or 3 staff members in the building that were coaching, you know, but some of these guys that came and gave up their own time away from their families that aren't educators and in the building, you know, be a high school coach, being able to be in the building definitely helps with the time commitment. But these guys were giving me their time and giving everything they had. So, you know, sometimes you see this pie in the sky, this brand new school, we're going to have everything just kind of handed to us to get started. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work putting a staff together. It's a lot of work figuring out all the routines and making sure the buses are there and all those things. And you just got to rely on the admin, your AD, your principals. So that's probably the biggest one for me. You know, kind of going in, I was like, all right, well, I'll hire this guy to be my OC and this one to the DC and this. And then you're like, oh man, I got to find guys here in the Fort Mill community. And those guys are proud of the football in Fort Mill. You know, they grew up in Fort Mill. They want to see successful football. And they've worked so hard for me. And, you know, some of them now have moved on and back to their 9-to-5 job. But I'll always be grateful to those guys for the work that they put in getting this thing off the ground.
Yeah, I'm sure it was kind of like hitting the ground running to some degree, because I'm sure that transition happened. And how do you create staff alignment quickly? Is it like terminology? Is it like your philosophy and culture? Talk about that.
Yeah. So first was we had the culture meeting and understanding what my expectations are for the program. If this is how we're going to go about doing it, and we can talk about be the why later whenever we get to it, but kind of how my philosophy on coaching. That doesn't mean everybody has to be exactly the same, but you have those core principles, you have your mission and your vision statement, and say everything we do has to fall under this, and then we'll be okay. And then you guys kind of take it from there, and then we start breaking down offense and defense. And that first year we only had myself and I think 9 other coaches. So we're coaching both sides of the ball, which built a lot of togetherness and getting everyone on the same page. And you're going from, well, this is what I called it at Nation Forward, and then I had coaches that came over from Fort Mill. Well, we called it this at Fort Mill. We had those conversations of what do we want to call the terminology? How do we want to go about using it? At the end of the day, it's, you guys know, when you come up with plays and hand signals and names, it's almost like you create your own little language, right?
Yep,
And now 7
exactly.
years in, we're talking about different formations and plays and motions. And if you're not in those coaches meetings, you're like, oh, what are you guys talking about? It makes sense to us, but to
A lot of coach
nobody
speak
else,
in there.
they're like, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Coaches, this episode is brought to you by Tsunami Bar Sports. And if you're a coach who wants to train movement, stability, and intent without beating your kids up, listen up. This bar is for building athletes. The unstable load forces athletes to brace, stabilize, and move with purpose on every rep, whether it's squats, presses, carries, or tempo work. It meets the athletes where they're at. Your freshmen can learn proper mechanics, but your varsity guys can get real functional strength, and your entire program builds resilience without excessive load. If you're interested, check them out at tsunamibarsports.com. No, and that makes sense. I think it's good to hear another coach or add in that it's all about, we need to talk about my vision for the program overall, like what we're trying to achieve. Why are we here? And like, I'm definitely excited to get into the be the why in a little while, but I think it's so kind of, I guess, refreshing is the word to hear another coach say, listen, this is bigger than this game. It's bigger than the X's and O's. We want to understand, what is our goal here? Like, not like, or let me rephrase that. What is our purpose? Not our goal. Our goal is to be competitive and win. What is our purpose? And I think that's refreshing to hear coaches continuously like say that, because I don't know if that's how it is in every program. I don't know if that's the purpose in every program. When you hire, coach, let's talk a little bit about that. If let's say that teaching positions aren't an issue, because I know that's a whole other ordeal.
Yeah.
You get a job, you're the head guy, there's nobody else on staff, it's a brand new program. What are you looking for first to hire, most importantly, and so on? Talk about that a little bit.
So when I started Catawba Ridge, I have an offensive background. I was the offensive coordinator. So, my expectation was, hey, I'm gonna run the offense. So I had to go ahead and find a defensive coordinator. And, I found one of the best around in Chris Rust. And he was on Coach Allen's staff with me at Nation Forward. And, it was not awkward, but I let Coach Allen know, like, part of coaching, I'm leaving, and I got a couple guys that I think align really well. And, Coach, I'm gonna try to get him to come with me to Catawba Ridge. And man, he was so gracious. He's like, Coach, that's part of coaching. Coaches are gonna leave, they're gonna take other jobs. He's like, that's part of what I have to do, is replace any that may go. And I was able to get Chris Ross to come with me and make him my defensive coordinator. For 7 years, he's done nothing but just put really, really good defenses on the field to give us a chance to win game in and game out. And then give him the trust to kind of say, hey, man, like, it's yours. I want to be involved with understanding what you're doing and how we're going about it, but to give him the trust to say, I want you to run this the way that you would run it. And then, from there, honestly, I didn't do an offensive defensive split. I tried to hire off a character. I think if you're a football coach, you're a football coach. If you say, hey, I'm a running backs coach, but you could probably jump over and coach D-line if you really had to, right? Understanding to get the kids to buy in to what you're teaching them. And it might be a little bit more work. So I really went down the list and tried to find guys that I thought were good fits to how we want to run the program, and to understand opening up a program as the third high school in the town of Fort Mill, it's not going to be easy. We're not going to go out there and win and blow doors off anybody. Like, you got to be committed to what we're doing. And then our first 2 games, we started out 2-0. I was like, this is easy. Like,
This is easy.
I've got 2-0. And then we lost the next 9 in a row. And, But those guys never wavered, and that's what you look for in coaches, guys that are gonna buy into how you wanna do it, and they're gonna lead these kids, and, you guys know it, man. If those kids don't trust you, if they don't believe in you, they're not gonna play hard for you.
And
So, I need those coaches that are gonna build relationships and get them ready to go run through that brick wall every Friday night for them.
wasn't it year 3, Coach? Y'all made a run, right? Y'all
Mhm.
to upper
Deep
state.
run.
It was our 2nd year. We went to the upper state championship in the
Second year.
2nd year.
Wow. Wow.
And then, that whole first year, we just kept telling the boys, we said, "Guys, there's not a team in the state that's gonna have 22 starters back." We had no seniors. We only had 7 juniors. So it was one of those things like we might be taking our lumps now, but we're going to have more experience than anybody that can put on the field against us because we have 22 starters that are coming back. And they bought into that. And we had a really good year and some good things happened. So I was proud of that. We had another nice year, 11-win season a couple of years ago with some kids. And when you get them to buy in and do it that right way, good things can happen.
So how did you guys kind of build your, I guess, weekly operating system? Did that kind of organically happen, or did you have like a process in place that you had in mind, or did you just kind of use the guys on your staff like a game week and like Sunday schedule, all that stuff?
Yeah, so we did a lot of little coaches clinics on our own, getting away from everybody and kind of sitting. And I had some ideas that I wanted to put into place, but I also understood, that first coaching staff. I had 3 former head coaches on it, so I also understood that these guys have more experience. I have an idea, but they do a really good job of saying, "Hey, I like yours. This is how we did it. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't." So you just kind of take ideas and as a coach, if you can make yourself the dumbest guy in the room, you're going to do okay for yourself. And I put some really good coaches around me and listened to how they wanted to do it. And at the end of the day, you know, the coaches, really the assistant coach is an extension of the head coach. I do so much time just bouncing around at practice and hitting all the different groups. Those coaches are the ones that are with them and really getting them to where they need to get to. So I relied a lot on their opinions and what they wanted. But at the end of the day, I am the head coach, so I've got to make the final call. So I think there is value in taking in the thoughts and opinions of your assistant coaches. But at the same time, when you get 10 guys in a room, you're probably going to get 10 different opinions on something. And sooner or later, somebody has to make a decision, and that falls back on the head coach.
And sometimes it's not easy because there are 2 or 3 good ideas, and you're like, "Huh,
Sure.
I don't know which one to do."
Which
It's
one I'm
like
gonna go
like
with?
which
Sure.
what's the best? No, but I think
Yeah.
that speaks volumes of who you are to our listeners, Coach, in terms of like there's no ego. Like guys, like just because I'm the
Humility.
head coach, it doesn't matter. Like if you have a great idea, let's hear it. But you
Sure.
also, and that, we've always talked about you have to separate, okay, when is that okay, and then when do I need to make the decision that needs to be made? And it sounds
Right.
like, Coach, that you do a great job with that. Coach, let's do it. Let's go ahead and hop in. Be the why, and I think that's going to be the episode name. I think it's going to be
Yep.
the why, and would love to hear what that means to you, and
Yeah.
let's dive into that.
Yeah. So, man, it came to me at a church service probably 10 years ago, well before I became a head coach. And our pastor at the church we used to attend, it was really kind of a funny parallel. We went to a new city church up in Charlotte, and about the same time I got the job, they were merging with a second church, which is kind of uncommon. A lot of times in the church world, the churches will separate and kind of put out plants out. But what they were doing was taking 2 different churches and forming them into one. And I was like, here I am about to start a job where I'm taking 2 high schools and starting something new. So I took a lot from it. But the sermon was about understanding your why and finding your why in anything. And I was like, man, that's great. So you start asking your question, why do I play football? Why do I do anything that I do? So to know your why. And he told a story when President John F. Kennedy went and visited NASA, and he's taking a tour, and he's kind of visiting all the different employees, and they are coming out and they're saying, "Well, I'm in charge of this, and I make this happen, and I'm making this happen. It's my job to do this." And he comes across the the custodian, and the custodian says, "Hey, what do you do here?" And he goes, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." Right, like. probably had the lowest level job, but understood what the mission was and his why of getting up and going to work every day. So then I start thinking, how can I use that? So I broke down the word why into the letters WHY. And I think anything in life. So I tell my boys, we're going to do this athletically, academically, and then relationally. And the W is you have to be willing. You have to be willing to step into certain situations. If you see an injustice in the world, if you see something that needs to be done, we have too many people that'll sit and say, well, somebody else will get it taken care of. Somebody will go pick up those water bottles. The managers will get those, right? Somebody else will get it taken care of. We need to be willing to step into situations that most people don't want to do, whether that's a 7 a.m. morning lift that I just had, our 35 rising ninth graders show up to, where it's like, hey, you're willing. You got up and you came here. 95-degree practices in August, whatever that looks like on the football field, you got to be willing. Then the H is you got to do that with all your heart. You have to give 100%. If you show up and go 50, then it probably wasn't worth showing up to do anyway. Now, whether that's, being a father, being a husband, you're going to have to be willing to do things. You got to then do it 100%. When you bring life into this world and it's, you're changing diapers at 2 a.m, you got to have that same energy as that first time that you're holding that baby. There's times like, man, I just want to go back to sleep, which you got to bring 100% everything you do. And then the letter Y and be the Y is year after year is consistency. And you can't just do it once and expect it to continue to get done. You can't just show up every once in a while and expect the results to be there. You got to show up day in, day out, week in, week out, year in and year out. And if you can do those 3 things, if you're willing to do what most people aren't, if you do that said thing with 100% of your heart and you do that every day, then no matter what you're doing, you're going to find success. And it's kind of funny. My wife and I went down the journey of fostering. Gosh, 7 years ago, and I didn't want to do it. I told her a couple different times I really didn't want to do it. Didn't want to do it. And she took the whole be the why and used it against me. She's like, well, here you are telling your players, you got to be willing with all your heart, year after year. And you're not stepping in when someone needs to. It's like, son of a gun, she got me.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
To bring it full circle, we decided to do that. And then in May, we had the opportunity to adopt our foster son that was with us for 6 years.
Man, that's awesome.
So
Congrats.
it's a great story. Yeah, thank you very much. It's a great story of if I wasn't willing to step into that, then I wouldn't have the opportunity to add him into my family and have another son, so
that's wild. Yeah, that's
when
cool.
you step into those scary situations that you're just not sure of, great things are going to come from it, but that's where the consistency piece and the 100% of your heart comes from. And typically I'm a firm believer that good things happen to good people. And if you show up and put in the work, something good's eventually going to come from it.
Well, you're able to add so much value to the people around you, and I think that's why we're all in this, right? Like, I love that you can define that in a way that all the kids, all the constituents of Catawba Ridge, now that it's permeating through the school, it just that says a lot about you and what you're about. And then now you're held to a high standard too, and I think that's good for everybody, And
100%.
I think that those are just good things for high school kids to know. Not every program has that. Not every program can define their culture, which is their set of behaviors that are going to lead to great outcomes for themselves or the people around them. I love it.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's, so we tell them like it's fill in the blank job, right? Like the guy that comes in or the girl that comes in with more energy than the others probably going to get ahead in life, right? Like you chose to do this. I always, we say that be the wise, build off of attitude and effort, because those are really 2 of the only things in life that you can truly control. You can bring the energy, you can bring your attitude, your effort, whining, complaining. I give the analogy all the time. I said, imagine if you walk into Burger King and you say, hey, I'll take 1 large pepperoni pizza. The person behind the counter is going to look at you and say, hey, we don't have that. If you then step back and say, man, this restaurant's terrible, I can't believe they're not going to serve me pizza. Well, you're the one who went into a burger place and ordered a pizza. When you sign up for a sport like football, and then you say, "Well, Coach, I don't feel like hitting today. I don't feel like giving energy." This is what you signed up for. When you're a student and you go to school and you get homework, that's kind of comes with the territory.
Mm-hmm.
When you take a job, don't sit and complain about the daily routine. There's somebody out there that would beg and plead to have the job that you have right now. So that the moments when I get a little frustrated, a little down about, the season, if the season didn't go well, or a parent complaint, or all the work you got to do, I was like, man, if I stepped away from this, there's somebody out there that would love to be the head coach at Catawba Ridge. I need to be grateful for every day that I have the opportunity to step on that field.
Yeah, Coach, that's great stuff. And it was funny when you brought your wife up. I've only been married since May, but I noticed she's starting to listen more and more to what I preach to the players and
Yep.
and the values and stuff. And she's starting to get really tricky with the, what did you tell your players the other day? Yeah. So
I told him to tackle.
You've been
That's
sitting
what
in
I
your
told him.
sink for a couple days now. You talk to your boys about getting stuff done on time. You got me.
Yeah. That's why I don't bring that stuff up much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'll
That's
be
right.
so these episodes drop on Tuesday. It'll be Monday night about 8 p.m. And she's like, "You want to watch a show?" And I'm like, "Oh, I forgot. I got to go edit the episode." And she's like, "But I thought you'd try to teach them. Don't wait till the last minute. Be pro." I'm like, "I'll be back. Like, I'll talk to you later." But it's man, it's great, Coach. This has been awesome to get to learn a little bit more about you and just kind of who you are. Early on, what did you measure early that meant a lot to you with building a program, beyond the football? Like, was it effort, grades, GPA, community service? Like, how did you try to implement the why? Like, what did you try to do in that realm?
Yeah. So, we talk about athletics, academics, and community and relationships. So, we monitor their grades every week. We print them off every single Monday. If they're below a C average, or meeting with their position coach. And, I'm proud to say this year we were at a 3.88 team GPA. We've never been below a 3.7 in the team GPA. Each year our goal was to do over 300 hours of community service in some form or fashion. We monitor their behavior with trips to ISS or Saturday detentions and things of that nature, and really try to intervene and be the go-between with teachers and parents and getting them to be where they need to be. So for us, that's kind of how we measure it, which is, speaking of that, my wife just brought me water. She saw me struggling with my cough, I think. So, but that's hard to measure, right? Like, because we do a profession where you get judged every Friday night if you scored one more point than the other team. And it's really hard to show everybody and be humble at the same time, where you're like, well, hey, look, we went and did all this community service and we have this team GPA, and we'll put those graphics out on social media and things like that because you want to brag on the boys. But at the end of the day, like, I know I can put my head on the pillow knowing that we're helping these young men grow. And the way that I now measure success is on a Friday night on our sidelines is packed with former players. When they come back, "Coach, can we come down? Can we stand on the sidelines at the game? Can we come and check you out at practice?" Or, all those text messages that you get 2 and 3 and 4 years later. And then, as my players continue to age, you hope you get invited to weddings and involved when they start having their own families and raising their own kids, that maybe some of this stuff that we taught them along the way, they start passing it along. So to me, that's what success looks like. And, the church we're attending now, they said it really well. You want to pursue your purpose, not necessarily your potential. If you're always pursuing potential, you're probably jumping ship. You're probably looking for something else. I'm going to work, and next thing you know it, your life's gone. We want to pursue purpose. What's your purpose on this planet? What's your purpose in coaching football? What's your purpose in being a coach at Catawba Ridge or a player at Catawba Ridge? And again, that's hard to measure. But at the end of the day, that's what's more important than really anything on the scoreboard that can show.
Yeah, and
I think go ahead, Dustin.
Well, I was just saying, we had a guest speaker, Coach Reed, on a couple of weeks ago. His episode actually dropped last week, and
Mhm.
he told us about 3D coaching, and we had never heard of it, and he got us hooked up and dove into it. And I was listening to it yesterday, I believe, and the guy was like, if you always keep the number one thing number one, then number
Mhm.
two will always come. But anytime you allow number two to get in front of number one,
Mhm.
everything's going to fall. And
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's what you're saying. It's like, and it's hard. I'm not going to say it's
Yeah,
not
I'm
hard.
guilty
Like
of it. You're
but
speaking to me, Coach.
it's
I mean,
like, but trying to keep your purpose always first
mhm.
and your goals always come after that versus let's not worry about the outcome and goals over our purpose, because then it's all going to fall. And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I heard you saying, Coach. And it
Yeah.
resonated.
And it's good to find a place, and not all places will, what are good jobs? I feel like good jobs have great communities that understand, or they're in alignment with what the football program is about. Obviously, winning and success are important, but there's more than that. And I think when you can find a job that, especially like you, Coach, like it's not just about winning. Like obviously, you guys have been very successful,
Mhm.
but what we're talking about tonight is more than that. Do you find that communities, some communities are lend themselves more towards that that particular side, or can that be cultivated year over year as you have these graduates? Does that what's your experience been on that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I originally grew up in Western Pennsylvania, in high school and college up that way. And high school football is very big in Western Pennsylvania. But man, when you get down here to South Carolina and then you see what a Friday night looks like in some of these towns, it does. It almost feels like you're in Friday Night Lights, right? In a TV
Mhm.
show where it's so important. And then you go some places where it doesn't seem to be as much. But I do think part of the coaching staff and the player development, as far as the character side of it, does cultivate the crowd wanting to come out and
Yeah.
wanting to be there for the guys, and they're proud of what you do. And we talk to our boys all the time about that. Like, we want to represent this little chunk of Fort Mill where they feed the Catawba Ridge. And man, I love it. Going back to the Pittsburgh area, one really unique thing about Pittsburgh is, like, when you go out shopping, people have Steelers jerseys on. It doesn't matter if it's Tuesday afternoon, right? Sunday at church, they're wearing a Steelers jersey. It's crazy. So around here, man, it's really neat to go into your local food line and see the Catawba Ridge gear. And
Yes.
this guy's wearing a CR hat, and that cashier has a Catawba Ridge hoodie, and you see CR stickers on the back of the cars, and that tells you that it means something to them. And so we
Mhm.
take that responsibility serious, and we want to represent our, like I said, our little chunk of Fort Mill right here the right way.
And in a town like Fort Mill where it is growing so quickly, and another
Mhm.
school pops up, and that's kind of bleeding over to Indian land. They were
Yeah.
1A or 2A a couple years ago. Now they're on the fence of 5A and 4A.
Yep.
I think it's probably super special to be able to put your stamp on something, because what I hear listening to you talk and what you believe in and your purpose, whatever guy comes, whether it's 3 years or 10 years
Mhm.
and takes over after you, the tradition's there, the stamp is there. And I think for
Appreciate that.
your school to notice that, to want to brand the culture of Be the Y within the school,
Mhm.
I just think that speaks volumes. And I don't know if anyone's ever said that to you, but just from hearing the way you just describe it, like
I
it's
don't see anybody putting up. I mean, they do put up state championship stuff, but
Mhm.
that means more, I think, than putting
It
up
does.
banners.
And yeah, I want to win a state championship, and I want to win one at Catawba Ridge. But at the end of the day, if that doesn't happen, I'll be okay. It's the relationships you build, and those, like
Mhm.
I said, if even if it's a kid on that has never touched the athletic field before, that hears Be the Y in the school, and they talk about it every day, and they take something from that to find success with it, then it's worth it.
yeah. Coach, you said you're an offensive minded guy. Have you ever coached defense or always been on the offensive side?
Always offense.
Always
Always,
offense. Gotcha.
yeah, it came down, moved to Charlotte in '05, started coaching, the spring of '06 and '07 at NAFO with their original head coach, Rusty Jester, and, Coach Allen was the DC there. Um, Met him. He said, "I need a running backs coach." I said, "All right, I'll do it." And then from there, it's just been a lot of learning, different offensive things, and eventually worked my way up to receivers and quarterbacks and OC, and then eventually head coach here at Catawba Ridge. So just kind of found my way into it, honestly.
What was your system? I mean, I remember us playing you guys and always felt like there was a ton of motion, ton of trying to create matchups. Where did you get your system, or is it kind of all your own?
I think one of the best qualities of a football coach is honestly to steal plays from other people. It's just a mixed match of things that I think our kids can be successful with, and we do a ton of motion, and sometimes not so much from year to year, but especially with those groups at Nation Ford, the group we had this year, we like to do a lot of motion to kind of create different route combos, or sometimes it's window dressing. We like to run a bunch of the same plays a bunch of different ways, right? And motion allows you to kind of get to that sometimes. And at the end of the day, we're hoping a 16 or 17-year-old kid on the defensive ball messes up once, and that's all you need. That's what I said about defense, man. You could be perfect 96 out of 100 plays and you still gave up 28 points, so
That's right.
We just try to take advantage of that one time that we can get them off. And but it's just, honestly, I love sitting and watching college football. My favorite college football to watch is at the FCS level and the D2 level. I watch a lot of those types of schools and steal a lot of their plays. I love watching SEC and Big Ten football, but we're not littered with 5-star athletes at every single position. And I think some of these FCS and D2 and D3 coaches do a really good job of putting a system in place that fits their players. And I think that's the ultimate job of the coach is don't ask your kids to do something that they can't do. You got to adjust to find things that plays into their strengths.
Yeah, and coach, I know you have an offensive coordinator, but I definitely saw some of your beliefs into the offense, scouting the offense when we played this year. And I remember there was 2 concepts you ran that I was like, man, this is kind of tough. It was 2x2 motion where the 2 to the field becomes the number 3 and they snap it and it turns into kind of like a 4 vertical. And then the 2x2 where you or the 3x1 where you motion weak and it's like a 3 vertical concept. I think number 1 run like a hitch and it's like almost like seam dig or whatnot, but it was like it's really good concepts. But one thing I did notice when I'm looking at y'all's offense and we're charting everything, I'm like, they run a lot of the same stuff, a lot of different looks. Like, and I would notice that it's like sometimes it's trips 3 bubble, sometimes it's split back, ghost motion behind 3 bubble, and just a lot of different things. And honestly, I think sometimes for the kids on defense, that's tougher. Like it's almost like I'd rather see 8 plays than 4 plays, 8 different ways. Like it's a little tougher for the kids, in my opinion, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, we want to allow our kids to find success. And if it's the same play call with just a different way of getting to it, we can trick them into being, like you said, maybe it's 4 plays, 8 different ways. Well, it's 30 some different plays. No, it's the same plays, just kind of getting to it differently.
This episode is brought to you by Team Builder. And if you're a coach who wants your strength program to actually run like a program, this is the software you need. Team Builder takes everything you're trying to do in the weight room, planning, tracking, communicating, and it puts it all into one place. Workouts, percentages, leaderboards, readiness, attendance, it's all there. What separates Team Builder is clarity and accountability. If you want consistency in your training, buy-in from your athletes, and a system that saves you time instead of adding work, Team Builder delivers through alignment. Sign up for a free 30-day trial with the promo code CoachSpeak.
Yeah, so talk to us about practice. I mean, I think one thing, as a head coach, that's one thing it's like a baby for the head coach. And talk to us about like your practice philosophy. Do you guys? I don't really pay attention to the offense a whole lot, but are you guys like I know you're probably like a standard team that can have different tempos, but just talk to us about like your practice philosophy.
Yeah. So we do the pretty basic indie group inside 7-on-7, 11-on-11 tempo. But we have a philosophy that I stole from a coach again years ago called the 12% rule. So offensively, what we do is we'll count up our total plays at the end of the game, and we're going to track 4 really bad things we don't want to have happen: a drop pass, a penalty, a tackle behind the line of scrimmage, or a turnover. And if you take those 4 things and you add up how many you had, divide by your total number of plays, if that number comes out to be less than 12%, you're going to win the game 90% of the time. And that's been true for us for years. So what I like to do is during practice, I'll carry my little notepad with me and my pencil. And, if a kid jumps off sides, hey, that's a 12%, that's going to cost us the football game. We'll hit our up downs right there if we drop a pass. So then at the end of practice, I line up and say, all right, guys, we were at 27% today. We're probably not going to win Friday if we play like we practiced today. So try to let them feel the immediacy of what's happening Monday through Thursday to find that success on Friday. And then on defense, we do the same thing. We just try to force the other team's offense over that 12%. Our goal is to get them above 20. So encouraging that, whether it's that individual drill, right? Maybe it's understanding pass protection so we don't give up sacks and negative plays, and talk to my coaches about creating and protecting the ball and creating turnovers on defense, protecting the ball on offense. And that could be in an individual drill with a quarterback on the value of throwing the ball out of bounds. And we're big on completion percentage. We want high completion percentages. But a ball thrown out of bounds for an incomplete pass is much, much better than an interception. And then, and in that drive with a kick, if you end it with a punt, a field goal, or an extra point, you're probably going to find a lot of success.
No question. I think that's huge to be able to track that over time. We do the exact same thing. We call them obstructions. So we've
Yep.
we've come up with a name,
Yep.
and but I taught our kids, and it's important because now it's not just, hey, high and tight. Well, I keep hearing that crap, high and tight, high and tight. I'm like,
Right.
no, that directly leads into the success on Friday. But I think it's
That's
a
right.
great time to kind of transition to what we call the rapid fire section, Coach. We'll just kind of throw out some questions, and
Yeah.
but it's been a great episode so far. But Dusty, you want to take the first one?
Yeah, Coach. So, we've talked a lot about your purpose and what you believe in and settings, but I'm going to shift here. I want to know, what do you think was your most important win early on as you were building Catawba Ridge?
Oh, man. So the first playoff win was big. We went to Greer in year 2, and Greer, kind of like we said, Coach Bolton, they have their state championships up on the thing. You're kind of walking in with a bunch of young bucks that are like, what do we get ourselves into? And to get that win, and then so that just to give them the belief that we kind of belong in that conversation with teams like that was probably the biggest win. And then, I'm proud, and Coach Allen won't want to hear this, but to beat Nation Ford and Fort Mill those first times playing them,
Heck yeah.
Part of football is enjoying the rivalry, right? And those guys are your rivals. That's what you want to do. Like Coach Allen and I always talk, and then that week we'd get a little bit quiet before the game and have fun with it. But to win and beat those two teams, of course, are big ones. And then the year we went 11-2 to knock off South Point the year after they won a state championship. Everyone knows in this area what Rock Hill football is all about, what South Point's done. So to be able to take a team down there, and I think that's the first Fort Mill-based team to ever beat South Point, was a big one for us as well. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach. So what's the hardest part about just being a head coach, like right now, even in the middle of, not even a startup, but just being a head coach? What's the most difficult part in this crazy era of, you got transfer portal, you got NIL money, you got all kinds of stuff going on.
I think the biggest part is there's so many voices in the kids' ears now. It's really easy to throw the guru after something, or a personal trainer, and I'm an expert and I'm going to get you here. And you just wish you could align all the people in these athletes' lives to hear the same message. But when they're hearing different messages, I think that plants questions in their head, and that's where you get the transfers, and that's where you get the kids that are thinking, why I didn't get this enough, or why didn't I get this starting position? Why wasn't I named all state? All those kind of things. And there's a lot of valid reasons that kids will have those conversations, but I think across the board, man, you can't open up Twitter and not see the first 3 or 4 posts, or hey, and transfer into this school. And I know it's part of the business now, but that part's really tough to handle.
The media seems to be picking up on that. Like, that's something different maybe in the last year or two, where a kid's always kind of announced, hey, I'm going to so-and-so middle school. I mean, we've seen like middle school transfer,
Exactly right.
and now
Yeah.
it's like high school. Well, obviously high school, but then now the media is like,
Yeah.
hey, so-and-so's transferring here and here. And you're like,
You almost
wow, this
glorifying
is
it, right?
getting
Yeah.
crazy,
Yeah,
but,
it's a tough piece of it.
Yep.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes the timing doesn't make sense at all either.
Right.
It's like okay, not saying I agree with transferring or I don't agree, but it's like also if you did it 2 years ago, maybe it's a little more valid than you did it now, or like that's
Right.
what I see a lot of cases of. Like sometimes it's just irrational decisions because, like you said, they're selling our grass over here, man. Check this grass out. It's that's something.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You look even now, and I can't be quoted on this because I'm not 100% sure, but I know there's conversation now. You're looking at some of these kids that are transferring right now to another school in South Carolina. I think by rule, they didn't do it in that window. That means they have to sit out the playoffs next year. Like, are people actually telling them that, or are they just telling them, hey, come on over here and play for us?
Yeah,
because there's that new
crazy.
junior thing. So it's like,
right.
the juniors that
It's
transfer,
the rising senior.
yes,
has got to
So
sit.
some of these guys might not be able to play in the playoffs, but I don't think they're being advised, and no one's telling them those kind of information.
Yeah, man, it seems like everything kind of trickles down. I
It
think
does. 100%.
it definitely does, and that makes it hard. I mean, because you got into the game, and look, I think there are some valid transfers. I think there's a valid reason to
Sure.
go to a program that you feel like is going to be a better experience. And we've experienced every coach has experienced on both sides. I mean, heck, sometimes we'll
Sure.
get a kid and like, where'd you come from?
1,000%. It happens
Like
both ways.
it
Yeah.
happens both ways, and for good or worse, we have to adapt to that. And
Yeah.
and so I've certainly been a part of that. And you're like, man, I'm so frustrated. But
Mhm.
anyway, coach, that makes a lot of sense. Dusty, you want to take the next one?
Yeah. So, coach, multi-sport athletes are really beneficial, but like sometimes buy-in for football, it takes a little bit more in the off season, and it's a little bit harder to manage for an athlete. Not maybe for a coach too, but like, what do you say the best way to continue to, let's say, get the buy-in from a multi-sport athlete outside of the skill development, like with the why and building them for who they are? Like, what's that challenge kind of look like with multi-sport athletes for you?
Yeah, so man, some of our best players recently have come over from other sports that have wanted to give football a try, and they still play their sports. I'm a huge multi-sport coach, and so the first piece is I tell them, hey, listen, bring me your travel baseball schedule, bring me your AAU basketball schedule, bring me your travel lacrosse schedule, and let's sit down and I'll show you what our summer schedule is, and we'll work together to make sure that you can do both. Now it's going to be a commitment, and then hey, once we start mandatory, you need to be here, you need to be committed to this. But then we talk about I can't imagine a sport where football doesn't make you better for that, right?
100%.
Where the discipline, the grit that you get, the physicality piece comes from it. I can't imagine anybody being like, man, I was too strong on the basketball court. Like that's gonna help you, man. Like hitting that weight room really hurt me, hitting my home runs in baseball. You know what I mean? Like, so I tell them you're gonna make yourself a better overall athlete. It's gonna help you with time management. It's gonna help you with understanding there's authority that you got to listen to in your coaches and doing things a certain way. It's going to benefit you way further down the road than just in sports and more in life.
Well, yeah, let alone the experience you get playing high school football,
Sure.
especially in this area. I mean, my word, just all the memories and let alone the other benefits. But no,
Man, I remember, I was a strength coach 2-3 years, and I had some baseball parents that were concerned. They're like, all this lifting's gonna mess my swing or the throw up, and I'm like, why were dudes getting banned for steroids in the MLB? Like,
Sammy
it really hurt
Sosa,
Sammy
Mark
Sosa's
McGwire,
career. Like Mark McGwire had a terrible career, because he was
that
so
guy
jacked.
never did anything.
And then,
Right?
like, same thing. It was like same thing with basketball. Families are like it's gonna mess my shot up. I said, okay. What about helping the 17 rolled ankles you have because you're not in the weight room? Like,
Hold on, man. But it's the same, dude. telling the kid to transfer.
Yeah.
All right, that's the same
Yeah, right,
kid.
yeah.
I got to get that out. That's the same guy.
Yeah,
It's the same guy.
It'll be all right.
Oh man, well, Coach, man, this has been a fantastic episode. Again, we
Absolutely.
appreciate what you do for
Yeah.
football in our state, in our area, doing it the way you do it. We certainly, you're not. I don't know if you're that much older than us, but we certainly look up to you and
Appreciate that.
and definitely respect the heck out of what you do over there at
Yes.
Catawba Ridge.
I appreciate you guys do some great stuff, man, and I enjoy coaching against you, and to see that you guys are doing this and just giving coaches an avenue to talk a little bit. We do this. This is our lifestyle. This is what we love to do. So to get an opportunity to sit and talk with, like-minded individuals who do things the right way, I always take that opportunity. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely,
Yes,
Coach. It was a pleasure, man. And I remember this year, Coach, like looking at your schedule, like because y'all were our last game because our last game was week 9.
Had to
And
buy,
I remember y'all came out, y'all were 4-1, and then you played Northwestern, which Northwestern's Northwestern. They won the state. They're good. Then you played Indian Land, and we had already played Indian Land. I'm like, darn, dude, Indian Land's good too. I'm like, okay, it's like respectable losses. And then you play Nation Ford, and we had just played them, and we knew how good they were on offense. I was like, I said, man, record wise, I said, man,
this
these
is one of the
dudes
most
are gritty.
competitive
And,
years that I've ever been a part of.
It was such a high.
Yeah.
I don't know if emotion's the word, but the game, I'm like, man, like these
we were
cats
like,
are good, man.
it's a
Like,
make or break
it's a
for our
big
season.
game.
Every game for us, and you guys saw that there's no off week in the region we played. You're seeing Fort Mill had a great year starting off, I think 5-0 when they came into us, and Coach Bentley's got NAFO. Scoring all kind of points. Of course, you know what Coach Wofford does at Northwestern, winning whatever it is, 26 out of the last 27 or something, 2 state championships. And then what Coach Bowler is doing with you, and then you look at Coach Woolbright and Coach Hastings with what they do at Clover and Indian Land, respectively. Like, man, there's no breather game in there, and it's a tough schedule, but that's what you want to do. You want to test yourself against the best, and I think that's what our region really was. I just
And I
hated
didn't even
in
know
the playoffs. It was like, at least for us,
Right.
we're all playing each other in the first 2 rounds. You couldn't get
that
away
was
from each other.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know how good our region was. I was like, because we just got here, so it was like, well, are we all like average or below it? But I really feel like we were all pretty decent. I feel like we were all pretty good. I mean, you look at what Northwestern did in their run.
Yeah.
Obviously, we played South Point too, and I mean, South Point was walking people, and we were in a fairly competitive game for the for the most part.
2 people in our region
um,
played each other for the upper state championship.
Like,
we played 2 state championships. We played two state champions.
Exactly right. You guys played them, and we played Dorman in a non-region. They were in the upper state championship.
They had them too.
So it's what you want. You want your kids to have the chance to showcase what they can do against the best, and I truly think South Carolina football does that for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well said.
Coach, this has been great. We truly appreciate the time that you've
Yes, sir.
taken, and I know the listeners will definitely get something out of this one.
Well, great. I appreciate you guys, and good luck to you both, and next year. And I look forward to competing against you guys.
Hey guys, don't forget to use our promo code with our awesome partners, the promo code CoachSpeak with Team Builder Practice, R4 Football Systems, Pro Quick Draw, Dome Headwear, Optimum Grading, and Ray Crowther. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one.
Thanks for tuning into the Coach Speak podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.